listener production.
Hello, Antoinette Lattouf here with the Weekend Briefing. Actor, fashion influencer and former lawyer Sharon Johal is used to firsts. As an Indian-Australian woman in entertainment, she's constantly paved paths that have previously been closed off. And she's breaking new ground again on Aussie screens by playing the first turban-wearing Sikh woman in Binge's award-winning TV drama The 12. In this chat, we talk about her latest project, but also her career since calling out the racism she endured when she was on the set of Neighbours, her experience on a reality TV show, The Block, which Sharon says almost broke her. We cover all the highs and the lows, and also how this latest role was really affirming and therapeutic. And if you're running out of ideas of what to watch or read or cook, rest assured, my producer Helen Smith and I are here to help you out with the weekend list. But first, here's my chat with Sharon Johal. Sharon, welcome to the briefing. I'm so excited to hang out with you.
Thank you so much. You know I love you and you're a friend of mine, but I've just got to make sure I talk to you as if I'm not having a glass of wine with you and we're in professional mode and doing all the things. But thank you so much for having me.
But you and I are not known to be especially filtered.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know why.
But both of us together on the same pod. Yeah, no, it's not about not being filtered. I think it's just about doing the right thing and speaking up when we need to speak up. And
this is true. One thing I think a lot of people will not know about you is that not only are you a South Australian girl, because you very much give off the vibe of, big city, big career, big personality, but you're a farm girl too.
Yeah, I know. I definitely sometimes look like a wanker, as you can see. But no, absolutely. I'm the child of immigrant parents, and so they came from India. My mum came from India when she was like 11. She married my dad, and we grew up on the farm because their degrees didn't translate in Australia. So we were like one of the first. My mum's family was one of the first Indian families in South Australia that settled. So her great-grandparents came through and used to cut sugar cane in Queensland. Make money, go back. And when it was kind of safer, and it was white Australia policy in the 70s, wasn't it? So when it was a bit safer for them to be brought up, they did. And yeah, I grew up driving trucks, semi-trailer trucks, picking fruit, packing fruit, doing all of the things.
And so what's your connection to the land like now that you live in, inner city Melbourne?
Yeah, Naarm. So I live in Naarm now. I mean, it's really interesting because I definitely feel a connection to country land because I grew up on it. When I wasn't able to go out to catch up with friends, I was always playing in the dirt. But it's interesting. It's like not necessarily where you were born for where your connection is. My husband, Anka, feels a strong connection to India, even though he was born in Australia. I feel a strong connection to Italy. So I feel like my spirit country is, we got engaged there as well. I just feel at home there. So I suppose it's where you make it. But yeah, land is a big part of my identity.
You did the good girl South Asian thing and you studied law.
Yeah.
And then you went from law to acting. Talk me through when you made that transition and how it was received by the family.
Oh, my God. So, I mean, you would understand being an ethnic child. My parents gave us options. So they didn't just say you have to do one thing. They were like doctor, pharmacist, lawyer, accountant. So 4 options we had. And I got into dentistry, but I was like, I don't want to look in people's mouths for the rest of my life. Yeah. So law was the closest thing to acting because I always wanted to do it. I was always a showman from the start and always putting on shows and trying to get people to come and like entertain. And my parents just never thought it was a real proposition for me in Australia, obviously, because of the landscape and the lack of diversity and what they saw on screen. And they just wanted me to be financially independent. Yeah. So I am grateful that they pushed me to do that because when it all soaks up, I might have to go back to the law. But I used to go to secret acting classes behind my parents' back. And it was a full Bend It Like Beckham story. So my mum used to like follow me in the car. She thought I had a boyfriend, but I was cheating on her with the craft of acting.
Which is worse? Which would have been more offensive and outrageous for her? You like passionate dude or her finding that or her finding out that you're sneaking into acting classes?
I feel like I got the same like treatment, honestly, because I was like, I'm not pregnant and I'm not doing drugs. I'm not a drug addict or anything like that. But I think they couldn't hold me down. They were scared of like what, because I'm one of those don't stop, I won't stop, I'll ask questions. And I've got an amazing dad who's not your typical ethnic dad. He's raised us to ask questions, but doesn't really like it when we ask him questions. Yes. But, you know, like question why. So it wasn't really received well. There was a moment when my mum literally yelled at me in front of all my acting peers. And I was in my my early 20s. Like this is when I was little. And they're like, oh my God, your mum is crazy. So I made the move to Melbourne, not to get away from my parents per se, but to be able to pursue acting freely.
And stop your mum tailgating you.
Yes. And just like absolutely encroaching on, my want to do it. My dad was more supportive of my mum, but they thought it was a shameful profession.
Yeah, because they're like, oh my gosh, she's going to be an actress, and the next thing we know, she's a stripper.
Yeah, she's going to be on OnlyFans. She's going to be in porn, And I did get an opportunity to go to India. I mean, it's not connected, but India for a show, Bollywood Stars, because obviously I look the way I look, right?
Yes.
So I'm like inside I feel Australian, but like every brief will tell you like Indian character, Indian, and it's such a big part of your identity. So I never really fit in when I was growing up because there wasn't those roles for me. So I investigated going to Bollywood. But Bollywood, there is casting couch stuff. So I can understand why they thought, that was the progression, that the only way you could make it is to sleep your way to the top. But by then I was already a lawyer, so I refused to do that.
What was Bollywood Star like?
Bollywood Star was eye-opening because I fit in there because I looked that certain way.
Yeah.
But like the nuances of growing up in a country, like you have to be so savvy, media savvy, but also very cunning. Like I'm not a cunning, like it is what you see, and I speak from the heart.
Yeah.
But you got to play the game, and I've just never really, as you know, been able to play the game. So it was scary, and I actually didn't want to live there. So I love Australia, living here, but in India, I just felt a little bit unsafe. So it was scary, and I had interviews with directors and stuff like that, but I'd already luckily had that profession of law, so I wasn't desperate.
Yeah.
So I came back to Australia and I was just like, one day I'll get the roles, and one day I'll be able to live in the country that I love, doing the thing that I love, and I'm still trying.
How soon after that realisation did you find yourself on Australia's most coveted street, Ramsay Street?
I gave up and then I got the job. So I went through the thing of trying to make it. And probably the energy that I was putting out was like a bit of desperation, I suppose, because it was a make or break. It was like, I'll give myself this much time. And
how much time was that?
Years.
Okay.
So I would say I was in the industry for 10 years before I got that big role. Okay. And that was the breakout role because it was a full-time job. So financial security, because otherwise I was moonlighting. I was doing 3 jobs. I was working as a lawyer, a litigation lawyer. I was doing that. I was working retail on the weekends, just trying to make ends meet so I could pursue my dreams and then do acting classes too. So it took about 10 years. Then I was living in Melbourne where it's filmed, and I was like, it's not happening for me. Moving to Sydney, new waters, a couple months after that, got the call and they're like, move back to Melbourne. You've got this job. And it was a big contract. So...
And what was that experience like? Because it was the first Indian character on what for decades has been a very white street.
Absolutely. So first Punjabi character, Sikh character. There was an Indian character before me, but this was the first interracial relationship too. So, they married me into one of the most popular characters on the show, which is Todi Rebecca, the guy with the mullet. So I was married to his brother. We had a dog, and like we tried to do things because there was things that happened before I was there. There was another Indian family on the street, and they had to deal with a lot of backlash on the show, off the show, and I had known about those experiences. And for me, like, it was such a hard balance, and you would understand this, of being very grateful for the opportunity, but also knowing that some things that were happening around me in this workplace weren't right. Script work, like, you need that diversity on all levels, obviously decision makers in the writer's room everywhere. And it's not saying the intentions weren't there, it's just the resources weren't there. And I'd have to like consult a little bit and question the script. I'm like, why is she always talking about curry? Like, what about my husband? How about this? She hates curry, he loves curry. How about that? That's funnier. And they were open and receptive to those things. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge because things just are not when you're a person of colour, things are not easy. It's actually harder for you to be on the same level as others. You come with a lot of baggage as well, and trauma, I suppose, and people aren't necessarily open or exposed to your experience. So it's hard.
And I think what most people don't realise, and my first little flirtation with acting in the ABC
actor,
drama House of Gods, even though that story entirely was almost everybody was Arab or Muslim in that series, what people don't realise is that there are so many people in wardrobe, in camera, in audio, in lighting, in directing. And if I tell you I walked into a room where every single person behind the scenes was white.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realise.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what it was like on Neighbours. And so sometimes things happen or decisions are made or shots from a certain angle or you're
lighting,
talking about curry all the time. And that kind of diversity and natural storytelling really doesn't come through.
Yeah, people don't see that. Like, they obviously see you on screen and then like, and I obviously celebrated the diversity. They see on screen, it's like, amazing, she's on screen. But like, think about all the moments before that when you walk into the room, when you're on your own, when the lighting's not right, the makeup's not suited to your skin, the conversations that are had around you ad hoc where you've just got to suck it up and keep going, do it thing. It's a lot to carry for everyone, but we're still in the very initial stages in Australia. So like people like me and other great actors are kind of like carrying that load to the point where hopefully it's not a load and it's just like part and parcel. But you're right, like you would have been in many situations where you're the only person of colour or like ethnic in the room and you don't want to notice that, but you can't help but notice that because it's all structured for that. It's not structured to be inclusive. And so, it is really difficult.
So it obviously was your breakout role. You shot to fame as a result of that role, but you reached a point where you had to challenge some of the things that you felt and experienced. Talk me through that. And also, if you regret speaking out.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Like, things happen. A bunch of things happened while I was there. So I was about for 4.5 years and it played a big part in me wanting to leave the show as well. Like, as much as I loved the show, I loved being paid to be on the show and there was a lot of people I loved on the show too. It's not everyone. Like, when we're talking about it's not everyone and it's a hard decision and as things were happening, like I reported things as they were happening. I had discussions with producers and stuff and we tried to resolve things.
What sorts of things?
Things like racist comments that were happening around me, how I was referred to on set. People would refer to me by my skin tone. I was isolated by certain cast members. Those things and bullied in a way. Yeah, for sure. And raised those things and then excuses were made like that person's really is older generation. They don't know. And it's like we don't have that now. Like I think the thing with Neighbours was it's such a standalone enterprise. I don't think it was moving with the times when I was there, but then it had to because what happened was other people spoke up. I felt and they felt like they weren't supported in what they said and actually they were made to feel like they were lying about their experiences. And I'd already left the show, so I really didn't have to get involved at all. And this is the thing about speaking up. People think, I don't know what people think, that you're doing it for attention or like fame or like whatever. The person never, ever, ever benefits from speaking up. Never.
You're branded a troublemaker or a liar or hard to work with.
And I was. So I wrote a statement in support of these people I paid for my own, I'm a lawyer too, but paid for my own advice for that. And because I didn't want to speak to any journalists or anything like that. I didn't want it to be construed. I wanted it to be in context in its entirety. So I put out a very well thought out statement about what happened to me, how I support these people, and also some solutions. Like I wasn't just like, this is fucked. Like, I was just like, no, this is how we can make it better. Because honestly, that's always been the goal. Me putting myself in these awkward spaces just generally and having these hard conversations is to make it easier for other people. I don't care what you say. I know, my family knows how hard that time was for me. I fell into a deep, dark place. I was isolated. I was 100% blacklisted from jobs.
After you spoke out?
Oh, yeah. Like, and the thing is, when I spoke out, it was actually received well because obviously all of it was true. They did a full investigation and everything, and everything was confirmed. So I actually wasn't tainted in that way publicly, like she's a liar. And I mean, of course they tried to pick apart bits and whatever.
But still quiet conversations
troublemaker.
Happen,
it's the thing.
Closed.
And it's because people knew and people know it's a thing of like, oh, our workplace isn't like 100%, and if she comes, she's going to speak up about stuff. We just want people to shut up and be grateful for the roles that we give them and just be like, it was the best experience ever. And honestly, at times
I love curry.
Yeah. And I actually do, but it was more honestly, like you have to think about when there's not that much representation on screen, you do need it to be positive because we are prone. There should be a duty of care in those situations where, because because if we're required and expected to put stuff on social media and stuff like that, we should be afforded a little bit of protection in that regard too, because doors close, you leave workplace, you go home and everybody's telling you, get off the street, you're going to bomb the street, we're coming for your family, death threats and stuff, like just by looking like this and being on the most Australian street in Australia. And that support, like there was support, but it wasn't as much as there needed to be. So the result of me speaking up was that change happened. And it didn't benefit me, obviously, because I was gone.
Yeah.
And actually was to my detriment. But I know for a fact there's people from the network, people on the show were like, thank you for doing that because this happened to me. And I know these policy changes came through and I feel safer in this place. So do I regret the decision?
Yes. Would you do it again?
I probably would, as much as my family and friends, because they were there it took me years to recover from that, right? It took me years and I still carry that hurt. And things like your friends, people that came to your wedding stood silent. Like your friends were bystanders, stood silent for their own benefit and their monetary, didn't want to lose their job and stuff. And I can't expect everybody to be that ethical, stand-up individual.
But you find out who your real friends
are. You do. It bloody hurt and it was a very lonely place. So I think the decision that tipped it over was I couldn't sleep at night not saying anything. That was one thing. And could I live with myself knowing that I could have helped in a situation? And I do believe I live in a privileged country, and I even believe I'm privileged because I can speak up about stuff and not get shot and not get my hands cut off. So I was like, do it. You lose a bit of money, I'll go move back home with mum and dad, Yeah. And they were scared because they were like, Sharon, like we have to, they're of the generation where we have to be the submissive, good Indians because we're lucky and they are grateful to be here, but we don't cause any trouble, right?
Yeah.
So do I regret it? No. Do I wish I had to do it? No. I wish I didn't have to go through that at all.
I completely understand.
You're in the thick of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just like, there is the other side of it. You do get there eventually and you find out who your friends are, and there is a lot of support to you directly and behind the scenes.
So then the next thing you did was you went on the block.
Oh my God, what was I thinking? I know.
That one is what were you thinking? Okay,
I'll tell you exactly what I was thinking. Okay. So in 2020, when I was on Neighbours, I had a late-term miscarriage. It happened on set. Yeah. I'm all good now, but it was like 4 months in. It happened during peak COVID, and we were lucky enough to still be working at Neighbours. But I went to the hospital and Unks, my husband, couldn't come in with me. He was sitting outside with the puppy in the car, COVID pup, and they were like, everything's fine. Went home and it happened at home, and it happened on the Friday night. I went back to work on Monday. I didn't tell anyone. And it's not because I didn't feel like I could tell anyone. I was like, well, what am I going to say? I was pregnant. They didn't know I was pregnant. Pregnant, and now I'm not. And everybody feels sorry for me. But I still had lots of scenes and work that I had to do. So after that whole tragedy, we had a fuck it mentality. So Unks and I were like, you know what? Life is short. Whatever happens, happens. And we had known some people that were part of production at the block, and they'd always been speaking to us about diversity. And they were like, there's no diversity on this show. We need more diversity. Would you ever think about coming on? And we're like, F no. Like, we don't have any experience. We're not up for making a national embarrassment of ourselves.
Yeah.
Cue. 5 minutes later. No. And then the thing happened, they spoke to us again, and then Unks was like, why not? And he's, in our relationship, he's the guy with the anxiety. So he's like, he's scared. He's a scaredy cat.
So he said, yes.
Let's do it. I was like, all right, let's do it. How hard can it be? It was really hard. We came second, which was great, but we really struggled. I had just frozen my eggs. Hormones were high. I cried a lot. Yeah. And we didn't really fight with anyone, but like they asked me how I felt. I told them the truth. As an actor with it sitting up here, they'd say stuff like, how do you feel coming last, embarrassing your family and whatever, and I'd be like bawling. And as a result, it'd be like paying the edit. There is an edit. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
It's an entertainment show.
Yeah,
it's for ratings. So they're looking for people to be emotional, to cry, to break down and whatever. And situations are set up that way. Yes, everything you see on screen has happened, but sound bites, things are out of context. And in order for the show to be like a successful show, you do have your villains. You have people that are going to be the true Aussie battlers. That wasn't us. Even though we're the kids of immigrant parents, they filmed us in South Australia, me working on the farm. They didn't show any of that footage at the start. They showed me in my glamorous lifestyle space. So people thought we were dickheads. People thought we were privileged, accountant, lawyer with lots of money, and we don't. Yeah. But that played into everything, down to like the music. When we walked in, when our scene came, and Scotty Cam, like the voiceover was all dark and yucky, and like it all adds to, like, these are people that believe everything they said.
set up as the villain couple?
There was a couple that left 2 days in because they knew they were going to get that edit.
Oh,
they
so
knew.
Were like, oh, now we
They
knew
left.
knew.
They were smart. There was an influencer and a ex-footy player.
Right.
They knew. They left. They didn't leave in the middle of the night, unlike reports were saying that they left. And we know things moved around to make things harder, like for us. And me, I don't shut the F up. I say how I feel. And then they got it. Like they got everything they needed from me. The smart couples played the game, kissed us, and also they just stayed quiet and pretended and were like, everything's fine. I didn't.
Yeah.
And so it was received great by people like us who understand, great by Australians who understand and can see through a TV edit, but that there was a middle Australia like demographic that loves that show that were just waiting for an opportunity for a person of colour to stuff up on TV or not be perfect. I just cried. They call me an effing sook all the time. They were like, what a whinger. She's not grateful. She should be grateful to be there and not whinge about, like, I wish I was on that show and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And also when we spoke up when things were wrong, like they set up situations to make Unks, who's an accountant, look like he stuffed up the budget when everybody had stuffed up the budget. And there was a running storyline that he can't manage a budget and he's an accountant. And I spoke up and I yelled in that moment. I just spoke strongly, but as a woman, angry brown woman, like, how dare you? I'm like, we're not going to work as renovators after this edit that we're getting. And that's that's our income. Yeah. You don't go there. And speaking up as well.
Like ungrateful, emotional,
an opinionated brown
tropes.
woman saying stuff intelligently and articulately.
How was it on your relationship with Unks?
Do you know what? There were things set up to make us fight. We did not fight.
Oh, so that's a good outcome.
We did. People get divorced after that show.
Yeah.
They do. People go into full mental health, real massive issues, but we bonded more than ever. And funny thing happened was after that, he was the strong one in our relationship, wasn't scared of it. He's like, if I can do the block, I can do anything. I developed the anxiety. I was like, oh my God, like this is like another yucky experience on Australian television. And now that's 2.
What am I going to do next?
It's over. I'm like, well, I just have to leave I just want to fit in. I want people to see me and us. I thought it was a great opportunity for 2 people of colour, like he is also, to see us. Everyone that knows us knows that we're funny, we're smart, we're loving people, we're so generous. And we just came off as wankers.
So then you had to go underground for a little bit and do a bit of recovery. But you've re-emerged.
Yes.
And you're part of a new show called The 12.
Yes.
It's an 8-episode series, and The 12, Series 1, dominated local award shows last year. And this time again, it revolves around a jury and a controversial murder trial.
Here we have a case of 2 greedy lovers.
Come on.
And a respected town matriarch murdered by her own daughter, Sasha Price, and her boyfriend, who brutally hit her mother on the head. Dumped her in a well.
They can't get her out!
There, Mrs. Price drowned in filthy, stagnant water.
I want to stop. Can we please stop?
So you play Parvinder Sangha.
Yeah.
And she's one of the jurors of the case. She's a mother of 2 and a devout Sikh. Parvinder is deeply connected to her community. And this is also another Australian first for you.
Yeah, it is. So I honestly, first up, this is the best production I've ever worked on in my life, hands down. Just inclusivity, diversity. It wasn't just that. This character came and there was no sort of you have to be that. It wasn't tokenistic. They'd done the research of the demographic and they're there's people like this that exist in society. I'm Punjabi Sikh too. So this is obviously close to home. And she's a devout Sikh though. So the devout Sikhs generally get baptised and become Khalsas, which is what she is. Yeah. And Khalsas cover their head. They live through, it's a simple way of life, but they live through rules like not eating meat, not cutting their hair, being modestly covered, et cetera, et cetera. They gave me the choice. They were like, how far do you want to go with this? Do you want to wear a turban or do you want to just cover your hair? And obviously the vain part of me was like, oh, it'd be nice to because you hide behind your hair sometimes as well. It's do you know what? We've never, ever, ever seen this before, a woman wearing a turban on Australian television screen. And for all of those kids that are growing up being that religious or the community, I have to do it. This opportunity has come to me for a reason and I have to do it. And I took it very seriously. So when I was 15, my parents, they left us in India for a couple of months to learn about the culture and religion.
Where did they go?
Literally the foothills of the Himalayas at a school, because I was born in Australia, and they were like, you're not connected to your culture. Learn how to speak, read and write. We were visiting the school, and then my dad was like, so I was 15, is like the three of us, was like, how do you feel about staying here for a couple of months? My brother and sister were like, no. And I was like, sure, why not? Like, this is an experience. And it was an emotional time because he thought he did what was best for us. My brother and sister probably disagree because it was traumatizing for them.
And they're probably still in therapy about it.
Yeah, like every time my brother gets hammered, he cries about this experience.
No.
Yeah, he's just like, because he was young. He was like 8, 9 years old, and he was in the school, and you have to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and pray and do all that stuff. And he used to get beat up when Australia won the cricket. Yeah, because like they knew we were Australian, right? Anyway, I had a really good time and learnt a lot of stuff there.
You didn't get beat up?
I didn't get beat up. Okay. I don't know. I just like opened myself up to the experience. Yeah. But that's where I learnt to tie a turban.
Yeah, okay.
And so when this happened, I did a lot of research within our community and how people live. So she's born in Australia. So she's like a modern Sikh religious Khalsa person. So she wears Australian clothes, like Western clothes. Yeah. She's cool.
Yeah.
So has a bit of makeup. But she is a nurse, and so she's a caregiver. But it was so great to call up, like, it just made sense. She's a nurse. A big part of our religion is we're caregivers, we're service providers. 10% of our time and income needs to be given to charity. That's what we do. And that was her role on the jury. So she was the empathetic, when people were like, I didn't do it, she believed it. Yeah. And also brought the room back together. So what's really cool about this is 12 characters, and we follow all their journeys, but they're all different parts of society. So you've got the rich guy, you've got the real estate agent, you've got the nurse, you've got the pub owner, and everyone's got their own intentions and stuff, and it unravels over the 8 episodes. And I watched the first series and was obsessed with it, so I just feel so blessed that I'm part of this one.
That is so great to hear, and I'm glad you've had a really positive experience, because I fear if it was 3 in a row, you'd have been like, Mum, you were right.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to tell them they're right.
I'd be a dentist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got my O1 visa, so I'm able to work and live in the US now. But I don't want to. I love living here. But the opportunities are still probably going to come. We've still got a long way to go in terms of representation. But yeah, right, I need my heart and soul needed a win, and I got it. And you can find patterns anyway. Maybe those things needed to happen so that I was strong enough to be here now and do more work for the community, which is my ultimate goal at the end of human rights law and whatever, like you. Yeah. And so I just want you to know that there is an other side. We're going to be laughing about this. Like, I'm telling you.
I hope so, Sharon.
We are. We're going to be celebrating. And so many people, you just don't know when you're in it, because you just see you have to protect your energy, which is what you're doing and what you need to be doing. And I'm so happy for you for that. But you have a big support system around you, and you will get to the other side, and you're doing the right thing.
And I won't go on the block.
Don't ever, unless I'm producing it. You need to have an EP role or something so you can control the edit, and then, you know.
They'd be like, oh, the Arab, she's stealing all of the building materials.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hiding it. Let's make her cry. Let's make her angry. We should make our own reality television show about what it's really like to be someone like you that's actually making real social justice change.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I meant to be here profiling you.
No, we're all in this together, aren't we? And you're honestly like amazing. Thank you for having me on. It's such an honour speaking to you.
That's actress Sharon Johal, and you can check out The 12, which is streaming on Binge now.
Thanks, Antoinette. Now it's time for the weekend list, where we recommend what to eat, do, watch, listen to, and everything in between. This week, I'm joined by Chris Spiro, one of our weekday hosts and producers here on The Briefing. Chris, welcome to the list. What is your first recommendation?
Howdy, Helen. Look, my first recommendation this time, coming at you again with some cost of living relief, is a wonderful app that my sister-in-law got me on. It's called ShopBack.
Yes, I've heard of this and I love it. Now, how does it work?
Okay, so if you're like me and you love online shopping, which I do, like I'm sickly obsessed with The Iconic, I discovered discovered it back in uni days and like it's really carried through. But what I love about this app is that it connects to all your other places that you like to shop. So like the Iconic, the Adidas store, all these other places. And what it does is every time you make a purchase, you actually make money back, like a percentage of what you've paid. I don't really understand how it works, but every time you make a purchase, you start building up slowly the money that ShopBack collects for you.
So it's like a cashback app.
Yes. And it goes into like a little account and you can cash it out at a certain point and it goes straight into your, you know, your ANZ, Combank, whatever your account is, which is so good. It's not like coupons. It's not like specific to the app and its providers. It's actual cash that you can use on whatever you want.
Yeah, I use this app as well, and you purchase through the app. So you click into the app and then you just click Iconic or you click this, and sometimes they've got 5% cash back or 2.5% or 10% cash back. Like some of the deals are really good.
Oh, the deal's a banger.
Yeah, so I definitely love this one. I love this recommendation as well. My first recommendation is a Netflix series and it's called Starting Five.
Ooh.
So it features basketball players, NBA players. So it features these 5 players in the 2023-2024 season. LeBron James is one of the players they follow, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, and it's kind of giving Drive to Survive feels, but basketball.
So to clarify, this is a documentary.
Yeah, it's a doco series.
Oh, I love this.
And it's so fascinating just to see how much work they put in. You know they put in work, but then once you get there, it's like, oh, no. Then you're at the cream of the crop. We're with the top best. Everyone wants to be the best. You got to prove it. But the money involved in this sport, I just can't. Like one of the in-season tournaments that they do, it was the first one they've ever done and it was in Las Vegas. Every player on the team that won got $500,000, $500,000. That's including the rookies. That's every
for one game.
For winning a tournament.
Oh, for winning a tournament. Okay, yeah.
For
but
winning
still,
a tournament. Yeah.
Dude.
And it wasn't even like the big tournament. This is just an in-season tournament.
Can I ask a follow-up question, please?
Yeah.
For the panel. Thank you. I famously have only cried through a handful of films in my life, but sports documentaries are one of those genres that bring me to tears almost every time. And it's like, because it's so inspiring to see people actually have this goal and this vision and then achieving it. So my question for you is, did you get filled with that emotion and will this sports doco make me cry?
I don't think it's going to make you cry, but you definitely felt that emotion.
Yeah.
Especially when you were seeing the relationship with where some of the players came from and their relationship with their parents. Actually, no, I lie. I did cry.
I know, it's actually like no joke. It's that one genre that gets me every time, every single time.
It was really good. I definitely recommend this one if you're looking for something just a little bit different to spice up your week or your weekend.
Oh, I like it.
Love that one. What's your second recommendation?
My second recommendation is also a watching recommendation, but it's a little bit nostalgic for me and you. And I'm sure for some of our listeners too, to be honest with you. For context, I was scrolling TikTok and there's this TikTok page that's dedicated to posting full-length episodes of old Disney TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, stop your scrolling and watch this whole episode of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That blah, blah, blah was That's So Raven.
Oh my God, love.
I have not seen an episode of That's So Raven in years. For those who might not be across it, it follows Raven Simone's character. Like Raven Simone, she's really like, she was a child star for a really, really long time.
Child star.
She plays the sidekick. She has her best friend Chelsea and her.
And she had the visions. Like,
yes. Oh my God, it's so iconic. Anyway, I watched the whole episode and it was the one where Raven applies for a job with her best friend Chelsea. Now, I know we're getting down in the weeds, but it has, you got to stick with me. They apply for a job at the same retail store. Raven's clearly the better candidate. She's like really good at folding the clothes. She has a vision because she's a dressmaker. And then she doesn't end up getting the job and Chelsea does. And Chelsea's like clearly not the right candidate. She's terrible at it. She has like lumps of clothes with wrinkles and things. But she ended up not getting the job because she was black. And then she has a vision of the manager going, oh, I don't hire black women. And in the show, it's kind of like Raven's moment where she realizes that racism is a real thing. And I know that sounds really silly, but we're talking like early thousands.
I was going to say, this
Disney.
is like early 2000s.
Yeah. And I remember watching that as a kid and it was like this big aha moment of like, oh shit, like people experience things so differently just for looking different. Like, and it's not something they can control. And the power of like all these shows we grew up with, I think it really molded us Disney. So look, my recommendation is go watch something nostalgic, but maybe apply a critical lens to it too. Like the lessons that we learned in these childhood products are like, I would say really invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important that childhood shows like that and children's TV is monitored and is made well, because if it's not, you know, these are subliminal messages that you're watching and you might not even realize.
Yeah, fully.
My second recommendation is a vegetable pasta bake.
Talk about a hard pivot.
And I've spoken about sneaking in veggies in my meals before because it's like a hack, I think. And I actually saw the other day, there was a report saying nearly 95% of Australians are not eating 5 servings of vegetables per day.
What? 5 a day?
Yes.
Like of vegetables?
Yes,
That's
you're
how much
meant
we're
to
supposed to
have
be eating.
2 and 5.
What's that?
Chris.
What's
The
2 and
education
5?
system has literally
No, I went
2
to
fruit, 5 veg a
Yeah.
day. There was a massive thing, a massive push for that.
No, look, I would say the limits of my food education at school was Healthy Harold. Healthy Harold did not tell me about 2 and 5.
I'm sure Healthy Harold did and you weren't listening.
To clarify, 2 pieces of fruit.
2 fruit, 5 veg a day.
5 veg a
This
day.
is nothing new.
Okay,
Now,
yeah.
this is not the recommendation.
Oh, of course.
The recommendation is my pasta bake, where you can sneak in these 5 veggies, right?
Okay.
All you have to do is grab your baking dish, whatever you're cooking your pasta bake in. Now, I put the pasta in hard.
Oh, you don't boil your pasta
No,
first?
you don't have to. So you put the
Interesting.
pasta in hard.
Yeah.
Then I put a red vegetable pasta sauce and then red pesto as well. That
Okay.
really gives it a bit of flavour.
So does that count for 2 veg?
That's just the sauce. The vegetables,
I've got my counting fingers ready.
I do zucchini, carrot, mushrooms, olives.
I love olives.
I think olives are vegetable, and spinach.
Spinach. Okay. Yeah, no,
So that's 5.
Yeah, those are good
And
for a
then
pasta bake.
You put that all in, mix it all up, and then you just top it with cheese and then panko crumbs as well to give
Panko
it
crumbs.
Yeah, to give it a crispy, nice top.
Oh, yes. Now, I've seen you brought this in this week, and that smells amazing.
Yeah, it's really good,
Yeah.
really easy.
Yeah.
Meal prep really well.
Oh, I love that so much.
Thanks, Chris. And I'm glad I got to inform you on the 2 and 5.
Yeah, that's
that
actually
you
crazy.
haven't been eating.
Fully.
Now you can.
Yeah, I don't know. Like 5's a lot. Five
Have my
servings of
pasta
vegetables is a
bake.
lot.
Have my pasta
True.
bake. There you go.
Yeah. Again, thank
That's
you.
all we have time for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that chat with Antoinette and Sharon. If you want more of the Weekend Briefing, you can find us on the Listener app or wherever you're listening to your podcasts. And hey, make sure you hit subscribe or follow wherever you're getting your podcast from. It really does help us, and it helps new people find our product so we can keep making the content that you love.
And while you're at it, leave us a review. We love reading the reviews. I mean, I love reading the reviews. It's so much fun. Yeah, leave a 5-star review and just leave some nice words about us.
Yeah, we really do love it when we get your feedback and your input on our content. It really does make a difference. We will be back on Monday morning where the team will have the latest headlines straight to your headphones, along with some very interesting interviews. Stay safe, everyone.
Listener.